and you have the conversation. But you certainly have to learn the art of delegating and getting things off of your plate. And welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. It's actually a fairly rainy, unusually rainy afternoon here in Las Vegas. It's a Monday afternoon. It's monsoon season, so we're getting a little bit of a thunderstorm, which is actually good. We need the rain, and so it's actually nice to see. But I thought I would take some time to do this podcast, and thanks again for all of your continued feedback on the previous podcasts. We've been working today actually and lining up the next round of guests, and we're going to have quite a few different kinds of guests on the show, starting I think mid-August. A lot of people are on vacation, as you know, it's summertime, and so scheduling during the summer is a little harder, a little more challenging. But starting about mid-August, we're going to be able to provide you some really good content and some really good guests. As with everything else, if you like the podcast, please tell your friends and family about it. Hit that subscribe button on the screen, and support us obviously by spreading the word and giving us your comments and feedback, which are very important for us to make the podcast better. If you have not done so already, please pick up a copy of my book, The Art of Ronin Leadership: Strategy, Execution, and Sustained Success. And if you'll see over my shoulder, there's a mock-up of my new book, which should be out, I say, within the next week or two. And it's The Art of Executing Ronin Leadership. And it is planning, alignment, and the most important part, which is continuous improvement. This podcast is all about continuous improvement and making sure as leaders you continue to stay sharp, focused, and continuing to grow as leaders every day. With that, let's get into it. So I was thinking about what to talk about today, and I was just perusing my library behind me, and I came across a book which I have mentioned, I think, in the past in different podcasts, especially when I talk about the books I've read in my past, which really helped me in my leadership journey. And one of them was this book right here, Organized for Success by Stephanie Winston. It says top executives and CEOs reveal the organizing principles that help them reach the top. This is really one of the first books that I bought when I took over as CSO at Microsoft, as we were developing our own leadership team and developing our strategies. And I was really kind of a nut when it came to all things productivity, all things efficiency, all things organization, because I knew that as a leader, I needed to have those qualities so that I could do my job better and not run around in 15 different directions and do what people call multitasking, which, as we all know, really doesn't work. And that could be for actually another podcast. But I read about this book, Stephanie Winston, and she went around and interviewed lots of executives, including Bill Gates, on the habits that make them efficient and effective as leaders. And the book goes into everything from how they do their calendaring to how they take notes throughout the day, or how do they remember things that are pertinent. Some people keep 3x5 cards and just jot things down. Some people use their smartphone to record things, all the way to how they conduct meetings, how do they handle their phone calls, and all these other kinds of things. Trust me, I don't endorse a whole lot of books, but this is one I think that as leaders you should definitely pick up. There are so many nuggets, and what I love about this book is, again, one size doesn't fit all. So what works for a particular police chief in New York City or LA may not work for a senior executive in a private enterprise. But as you go through the book, you will find nuggets that you can put into your own system of organization for you, and then hopefully if that works for you, then impart that to your team to make everyone more efficient. But I think today I would tackle, and this will be a quick podcast, tackle the issue of email. Those of you who know me, have heard a lot of my podcasts or have read my book, know that I think really conquering email and conquering the calendar is a huge part of the battle when it comes to becoming more efficient in your daily activities. We tend to be driven by the calendar, driven by email, rather than us taming that calendar and email monster. And it can get to the point where you're not doing nothing all day except responding to email, and overloading your calendar with stuff that maybe you don't need to be involved in. So my own email journey started with a class called Managing Action. And it was all about how do you tame that calendar. It was, it was at Microsoft campus, and there was a company, I think it was called McGee Productivity Group, and a good friend of mine, Cindy Whiston, was the instructor. And I remember being in that class. Maybe I was in Microsoft just for a couple of years, and she asked everyone to read or just count the number of emails they have in the inbox. Now, most of us probably had, 100 to 200 emails, some people 300. There were people there that one guy had over 1,000 emails in the inbox, because people tended to use the inbox as a parking lot, right? And they get to some things, they don't get to other things, and it just kept on and on and on. And so she showed us several techniques in terms of sort of taming this and you getting control of the email. And she told most of us that, by the end of the day, we would get our email down to 0. And she did joke, well, for the person in the class with 1,000 emails, I may not get you down to 0, but I'll get you down, maybe to a couple hundred or something like that. And the class was maybe 2-3 hours, and it was very enlightening. It certainly, my inbox, and as well as everybody else, was down to 0. And so that got me thinking more and more about taming that email monster, because the more you're wedded to the email, the less you have time to strategize, the less time you have to think. You're being more reactive than proactive. And we can all have those days when you do get burdened with email and you do have to sit down and respond. But there are ways to kind of look at and try to get a handle on the email. So I'm going to read you a passage actually from this book, Organized for Success, and I'll kind of give you a preface on what I'm talking about. I'll put the peepers on. So it's called the chapter is called Conquering Email Clutter. When I ask senior executives how they use email, their comments are marked by a curious and unexpected hesitancy, a wariness even. A surprising number of them, including Leonard A. Lauder, chairman of Estee Lauder, Teodoro Benavides, city manager of Dallas, and Akira Chiba, president of Pokemon USA, expressed the concern that when used incorrectly, email could actually impede rather than foster communication. William G. Duggan, the publisher at Briefings Communications, a newsletter published in Alexandria, Virginia, summed it up succinctly. Email is an indispensable task tool, but to allow it to encroach on your human interaction with people is a very damaging attitude. Email tends to be a separating influence rather than a unifying one. You, as a leader, have a responsibility to create an environment of teamwork. These concerns, however, represent only half of the email paradox. The other half of the email dilemma is death by drowning. With many organizations now relying on email as the dominant method of communication, the non-existent gap between an idea in your head and tapping out an email, along with copies of 10 to your colleagues, has created an email tidal wave. Under 100 emails a day is considered a modest quantity. Up to 200 has become commonplace in certain industries, and 300 or more is not unheard of. So that sort of gives you a little premise. Now this was written, let's see, where year was this? This was written in 2004. So think about it. That was 2004. We now have, on top of email, instant messaging, obviously, text messaging that goes along with that. So we've just added on to our sort of communications dilemma. So how do you handle this? How do you tackle this? We're all going to get email. If you're working in business, you're going to get emails. You're going to have to respond. Well, I remember also reading, in the book about when they interviewed Bill Gates and how he kind of looked at email, because as a CEO, he's going to get a lot of emails. So first of all, and this may not apply to everybody. Maybe it's doable for everybody, but he had multiple screens that he used to do his work, and I adopted that at Microsoft and even here at home, where I could look at email on one screen, I could have a Word document open on another screen, or some other activity on a third screen. At one point I had, like, in my office at Microsoft, 3 screens, and then I had one screen which actually had news, so I could sort of keep up with what's going on. But kind of put that aside, let's just concentrate on the email. One of the things that Bill had said was that he had a system where he could flag emails in terms of their importance. And anything that was immediate would go into a particular folder. And of course, new emails go into a folder, you see it and it's flagged. So the first part was to create, and it doesn't have to be unwieldy, but a system of folders, subfolders in your inbox, and in this case, Outlook, where you could park certain things. So that goes back to, okay, so if you look at really the 4 ways of dealing with email, right? Number 1, you delete it. Number 2, you defer it. Number 2, you delegate it. And number 4, you do something about it, right? So what Bill was doing when it came to setting up those subfolders was you were either deferring or you were doing something about it. So in my case, what I did was I have my Outlook inbox, and I would set up a few subfolders. I would say immediate action. And so for those people, and it takes time for you to do this because you have to actually flag different people to go, when their emails come in, it goes to that inbox. So I would have anything from like Bill or Steve or the C-suite people that I was working with, to my boss, my immediate boss, any of the real big heavy hitters, head of HR, et cetera, legal. Well, over a period of time, when their emails came in, it would go into this immediate action folder. So that I could see at a glance, hey, it's highlighted darker than other folders. So it means, hey, there's something in there. So I could take a look at that immediately. So that doesn't get parked in my inbox. That immediately goes into this immediate action folder. You have things that are to do, but problem is a lot of times those to dos end up becoming very unwieldy because you just keep popping a bunch of stuff into to dos, and it becomes no different than parking it in your inbox. So I made sort of an immediate action folder. And then depending on the types of things that were coming in, I might have subfolders for certain projects. The GSOC program. So anything that had to do with GSOC might go into there, right? And then, I would also have different folders for other types of projects, and then I would use the flag system that they have on Outlook to be able to look at when to defer items, right? So let me back up a little bit, just go through the 4 things first. It might make things a little more clearly. Let's go to delete. That tends to be the easiest. So if there's no action for you to take, if it's more of an FYI kind of email, then by all means delete it, and delete it immediately. Don't just let it sit there in your inbox, letting it pile up. It just kind of muddies the water. So anytime you have a chance to delete things out of your inbox, just delete them. When I used to be when I was working as CSO and I'd be on vacations, I would, I think I've told you this before on another podcast, but I would certainly look at my email, but no more than 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes a day, because I was on vacation. And really all I was doing there was deleting. I wasn't taking action on anything, because anything that needed action on, I would get notified and it'd be an immediate thing. So I was basically deleting. So when I came back from vacation, I didn't have 500 emails waiting for me, right? And so that's something you should consider when you're on vacation, to delete as much as you can. Don't spend a lot of time on it, but 30 minutes, you can just delete a lot of stuff. But certainly that's the easiest of those 4 Ds, is just delete those things that you really don't need to do anything about. The other one is defer. So defer simply means that there's an action that you probably need to take, but you don't have to take it right away. Now, how you slice that is up to you, but I would certainly take it out of the inbox, set up a subfolder, and it could be you make a subfolder for a week or 2 weeks or a month, whatever your system is. So you look at that email and you think, I gotta come, I have to, there's a deadline in a week. So that goes into the week subfolder. And you have a tickler, right? It's easy to get a tickler to remind you. Just put it on your calendar. A couple days before it's due, as a reminder on the calendar, this is due on that date, right? And then on your calendar, you refer to, I would put things like on the calendar, like defer folder. And then you would know that that item is in your defer folder. So it's like, respond to Tim by Friday, and you would have that in your calendar on a Wednesday, and defer folder. So now you can refer to that defer folder and say, okay, that's the thing that came in, about a week ago, so I'm going to take action on it. But it's not something you have to do right away. So those are issues that don't require immediate attention, but at some point in time, you're going to have to take action. So you put them appropriately. Again, this is really subjective, and it's up to you how you're going to slice your folders. You shouldn't have 30 folders, but you could certainly have a few folders for the defer part, right? And for me, it was easier than just put one defer thing to actually, put a defer and then maybe have a couple of subfolders even under that. 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, something like that. So that it gives you a framework of what's really important out there. But again, it takes it out of your inbox, right? And then there's the delegate part. As a leader, you have to know how to delegate. And when things come into your inbox that are really for other people in your organization to handle, you need to get it out of that inbox, forward it, and CC your direct reports or whoever else is in your organization, or even outside of your organization, that really should take the action on it, and have them take care of it, right? And then that gets it out of your inbox. But certainly delegation is important. There are a fair amount of leaders that just will just go ahead and take action on it, or not realize that it's really not in their purview. Or if another organization says, hey, we came around this issue, this is really your issue, and you realize, no, it's not my issue, it's your issue, then you have the conversation. But you certainly have to learn the art of delegating and getting things off of your plate. Especially if you're a senior leader, your main job is strategy and running the organization. You cannot be burdened with emails and action items that really are not in your purview or shouldn't be something that you're doing. So remember to delegate, delegate, delegate. Be efficient, be ruthless about delegating things that you really don't believe belong to you. And then the last D, obviously, is do something about it. So these are action items that you can take care of right now. You see something in your inbox, okay, it's something that you can, it's just a quick answer. It's just a quick boom, boom, boom. Just do something about it, right? But take action on it then. And one of the things that worked for me, again, I read this book, Organized for Success, and I've read other leadership books where, one of the themes is don't look at email all the time, right? You put it on your calendar the times that you're going to look at your email. And a standard one for a lot of these leaders in this book would be, I look at email 3 or 4 times a day, or say 3 times a day, 10 to 20 minutes at a clip. And I schedule it. So those are my email reading times. Those are the times when I park myself in my chair, or I'm at a coffee shop, or I'm doing something and I'm looking at email and I'm responding appropriately, or I'm delegating, or I'm deleting, or I'm deferring it. And so that way it's not a constant, the typical is you're at your computer, you got a Zoom call or a phone call or mobile, you answer that, blah, 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 you finish with that, you get back to the email, you were starting an email, but you get back to that. Then one of your direct reports needs something, you talk to them, and it becomes this back and forth, back and forth. It's not efficient. And people wonder why at the end of the day, they still have all these emails in their inbox. They don't really feel like they've gotten any traction on taming this email monster, or even making their day more productive. So I would highly recommend, until you get the hang of things, to actually put it on your calendar. I don't care if it's once a day, twice a day, if maybe twice a day, 30 minutes, or whatever works for you, but you must figure out a way that you're not reading email constantly, because that's not efficient. Because people will suck as much of your time as you allow them to, right? So please think about that as you are working on email, to try to figure out certain times of the day that you want to look at email, to respond and to do all these things that you need to do. But try not to let it be the full 8, 9, 10 hour day that you're always looking at email, because it's really hard to strategize, to plan, to do the things that you need to do as a leader if you're constantly responding to that email. So that's really an important one. Another one also is to realize that you may be getting emails from organizations within your enterprise or outside that are more of an FYI, but they clog up your inbox. And if you really don't need to get those emails, you need to get back to the author of those emails and say, hey, I appreciate you keeping me informed, but really don't need to get these emails. I can stay informed another way. You have to be ruthless about making sure that whatever goes into your inbox are just the things that need to be in your inbox, right? And that's one of the other reasons I preach this management by walking around. In my new book, I also call it management by flying around. If you have a global organization and you need to travel and visit your teams overseas, but even at your headquarters or wherever you're at, the mere fact that you get up and you're going to go down the hall, or you're going to another building to see your team, means that you're not looking at your email. Like, you're doing something really constructive by seeing your team. I mean, I see that at Microsoft, and I've been guilty of it like anybody else, right? I have to stop myself where, I may have somebody right across from me, like Sam, my former business manager, and she's right there, but I send her an email. I mean, it happens at Microsoft, and it happens at a lot of companies, especially tech companies, all the time. You have a colleague a couple doors down, but rather than get up and talk to them, you send an email, or do a quick text, rather than get up and talk to them. And it's what the gentleman was saying, I read to you earlier, about email can be a hindrance to personal communications. Yeah, certainly email can be a fast way to get communications, right? But it should have its place, and it should be used accordingly. So think about that as well. So these are just basic things, but I think that if you remember to delete, you remember to defer, delegate, and do something about it. If you set up a system, whether it's Outlook or whatever email system you use, where you have certain subfolders where things go into those subfolders out, instead of going to your inbox, they go immediately to the subfolders, which helps obviously streamline your inbox. And then, those things that need immediate action, you have an immediate actions folder, so you can act on those things immediately. Those things, I think, are going to help you a lot in taming your email, I wouldn't say obsession, but email culture. And it's really hard to do because we are an email culture. We spend a lot of time on email responding. Now that I'm retired, it's not so much getting emails from organizations in an enterprise or something like that where I realize you don't need to put me on this email string. Now it's more from products and things that I've bought before where I don't need to be on their mailing list, that type of thing. But it's not apples to apples, but it's sort of the same thing. Where in order to streamline my inbox, I have to work diligently to unsubscribe from all these different things. A lot of them I didn't even subscribe for; I just bought the product, so that my inbox tries to be as lean as it possibly can be. And I still use the same system for different individuals who. If it's something immediate from different people, that it goes into my immediate folder. And then I've got action items that I've tried to diligently look at and flag and then use the calendar as a reference point to say, oh yeah, in a couple days before it's due or whatever time you think. So let's say you get something and you need to respond in 7 days. And it's going to take you probably no more than 2 days to think about it and craft an appropriate response. Then, calendar it in for a couple days before the due date. Make sure you put the notification in your calendar or refer, say, hey, it's in the defer file. So you know where it is, you know when it's due, and you can just take action on it. If obviously you're going to need more time to work on a particular action item, then put the calendar notification earlier. But use Outlook, use whatever mail system you have to its maximum advantage. But the first part is look at your inbox, your current inbox, and just be diligent. Just take a few minutes, look at that inbox. And in your mind, go through those 4 Ds, right? Go through delete, defer, delegate, do something with it. And as you go through it, do a mental kind of checklist. You don't have to do it right away. Just go through this checklist. This email, does it fall into any one of these 4 categories? It does. Which one? Okay. So if I had set up what would I do? Well, I don't need this, I'll delete it. If I had the system set, I would defer it and I would set up that folder. So you start doing that. You start getting a sense of your own inbox, kind of what's predominant in there. Are there a lot of deletes? Probably a fair amount. Are there a fair amount of delegates? Probably. Not as much as deletes probably, but a fair amount, right? Do something? For sure, right? For sure. But that doesn't mean do it right now, or is it something that you need to defer or immediate action? So again, just take a look at it. One size doesn't fit all. I would highly recommend you buy this Organize for Success by Stephanie Winston. I'll show the book again. I don't know her, but as you can tell from, let me see, I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but I did a lot of underlining and a lot of highlighting in this book. This is a good one here. And I would refer to it a lot, especially in my formative years. And I would refer to it off and on if I felt I was getting back into bad habits or getting rusty with my how I handled mail. And so think about it. Please give me your feedback. If you start trying out these systems, I love to hear how it's working for you, or how you crafted it, or what you did. I think it'd be fascinating to see, because everyone has a different way of handling email. But if you look at the parameters of the 4 Ds, if you look at using calendaring appropriately to marry up with your email so that you have the right system there, right? And if you kind of look at how you can parcel out your day, where you're not looking at email all the time, but you're looking at email several times during the day. And I know that's hard because it's addicting. Email is addicting. And so a lot of people find that's your comfort zone, right? Keep looking at email. It just seems to be the SOP, the norm now. Break out of that norm. Try it. Even if you try for doing it, a couple hours out of the day, 10 minutes a day, okay? Eventually you want to get to maybe 20, so you can slice off more emails. But Try it. See if it works for you. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you get something out of it. Again, please hit that subscribe button, and please continue to provide feedback. And remember, you can get my first book, The Art of Ronin Leadership, on MikeHowardArthur.com and also on Amazon.com. The new book, The Art of Executing Ronin Leadership, will be out very, very soon. We basically, all we need to do is press a few buttons and we'll be live. So stay tuned for that. And certainly tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues about this podcast. If it's something you like, please give us your opinion. If there are things that you don't like about it or things you want to see more of, again, please give us your feedback. So until next time, I hope you are able to tame this email beast. Love to hear your journey on this, and we'll be back to you real soon.